Good morning, Quad Cities, and a happy New Year Eve to you. Cannot believe this is the last episode of Ask Andrew Live for the year. Yeah, 2026 starts tomorrow already. Hard to believe. Basically, thank you for being here with us here this morning. Happy to spend the final hours of 2025 with you, and glad you could join us here for this new episode of Ask Andrew Live. I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzke. If you are new, welcome on in. I'll give you instructions here in just a moment on how to submit your weather-related question. And if you're returning, welcome back. Hope you've had a good week so far. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas holiday, and hopefully Santa was good to you this year. If you're new, here's how this will work. We are going to talk, of course, about what's going on right now weather-wise. I'm also going to dive in to the top weather impacts of 2025. We'll revisit some of the busiest storm systems and busiest days here this year, weather-wise. Then we'll also go over our Ask Andrew questions from this past week. We've had some really great ones, including about some lights in the sky at night, some really concentrated beams of light in the sky at night. We'll be talking about that. And also, what's the status of the ongoing drought, especially after we got some rain this past weekend, which was actually really nice to see. Let's start with what's going on, the here and the now. And that is today we're going to be tracking some snow showers, especially if you live on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. More specifically, I would say north of Interstate 80, right to the northeast of the immediate Quad Cities. There's one, what we call Clipper system to come through. We call it that because it moves very quickly, and it also originates from Alberta, Canada. So I'll show you where that's at right now. It's quickly sliding through parts of Minnesota, and you can see there is a very small corridor of some light snow showers, even some rain that's trying to form kind of on the front side of this, because we had a warm start this morning. We've still got temperatures that are way above freezing. So yes, there may be a rain-snow mix as this little area of snow slides to the southeast. And you can kind of picture this in your head here, the trajectory that it's going to take. You can see the back edge is essentially going to follow this line here. So if you live on the right-hand side of that line, which would be Dubuque, Galena, Savannah, you've got Chadwick, Milledgeville in there, Kalita, probably Prophetstown, I'd include you as well, Sterling Rock Falls, Kalita, Princeton. You'll likely see some of those snow showers as we get into the upcoming afternoon. Right now, the timing favors that moving in just after lunchtime. We actually got our updated future track model run in the last hour, continuing to confirm that yes, right along that line that I just mentioned, we'll start to see those rain and snow showers come in as we go into the early afternoon. Will this cause an impact on the roads? Right now, I don't believe so. With this warmer start this morning, we've got these warmer pavement temperatures, and you can tell just by looking at the pavement, it looks wet. The pavement is sweating. It's thawing out. It didn't rain overnight. That's all pavement sweat. So that's allowing those temperatures to warm up. So once this does hit the pavement, it is a wet, heavy snow, and it likely just melts on contact. However, the grassy surfaces through mid to late afternoon may start to accumulate a little bit of a dusting, especially again if you're northeast of the Quad Cities. This will wrap up quickly. We're talking about a time span between 2 and about 6 o'clock this evening, and then after that, we will start to see colder temperatures make their way in, but winds will also be picking up as well, so I'm not anticipating a flash freeze scenario for tonight. However, watch what temperatures do. We're 38 today. We started out at 35 this morning. I tell you what, that felt a world of a lot better than what it did the last 2 mornings. Much, much nicer to be out. Tonight, though, we kind of slide backwards again with those temperatures. We drop back into the mid-teens. Winds will gust up to 20 miles an hour, which means some single-digit wind chills tomorrow morning. But we start off tomorrow with a lot of sun in the morning. We'll have some clouds filter in the afternoon, and a little bit of wind in the morning will cut down on that significantly in the afternoon, and we'll see temperatures get right back into the mid-20s. So if you're going to be celebrating New Year's Eve this evening, the warmth will stick around for a little while anyway. You still need the jacket though. If you're going to be out late, I'm talking beyond midnight, that's where you're going to be dealing with those much chillier temperatures in the teens. I want to show you though what's going to be coming up here in the long range, and it is easily laid out on our 8-day tracker. I've had to change the forecast twice this morning based on some new data that's coming in for early next week. So check this out. Yeah, we're back in the chill zone tomorrow and Friday, but we get to the weekend and we start to build that warmth back up. And boy, does it really move in as we go into next week, where we're likely going to spend multiple days into the 40s for highs, overnight lows above the freezing mark. Now, if we had snow on the ground, we would not be able to do this, but the fact that we are snow-free is going to allow us to take full advantage of the mild Pacific air coming in here next week, and that means nearly every single day, at least every work day, is going to be spent in the 40s. Weekday, I should say. Everybody's work day is different. Now, our next storm system, the one that could have an impact, that has a little bit of strength to it, that's way out there. We're talking late next week with the potential for a rain-snow mix, and then that would begin to gradually shift us back to some colder temperatures as we get toward the middle part of January. But all indications continue to show that we will enjoy a nice thaw in early January, thanks to, what did we talk about a couple of weeks ago? That strengthening polar vortex. It makes all the difference in the world this time of year. Lastly, before we get to the recap of what happened this year, the busiest impacts anyway, we had an interesting little turn of events here. I showed you this graphic a couple of weeks ago. This is the temperature and the rainfall departure for the month of December. A couple of weeks ago, that 4.1 was 12 degrees plus colder. Much, much colder. But the fact that we've had some warmer days has actually allowed that number to come down, which is good. Check out the rainfall, though. Hey, only short 1/100th of an inch. Who cares at that point? We had a good month for rain, with especially the rain that came in on Sunday. And a reminder, the ground is not frozen. It was able to soak in quite nicely. You look at the top bar, all the ups and downs with the temperatures. Doing some quick math, it appears our temperature, our average temperature for the entire year of 2025 was between 4.5 and 5 degrees warmer than normal. That's pretty significant, and I'm not surprised either, because do you remember what happened here back in July and also into June? We had all that heat. It was mainly July where we had all that heat come in. We had some of the most humid days ever experienced on record, at least since we've been keeping modern records here weather-wise in the Quad Cities this past summer. It is no surprise whatsoever that the entire year ended up, and most likely will end up, being warmer than normal. So speaking of that, let's talk about our top 5, or actually I'm going to go to the top 3. The other 2 I'm going to save for our social media, but our top 3 weather impact events of 2025. This was an easy list to pick. Didn't struggle much to figure out what number 1 was going to be, and that was the at least 3 separate tornado outbreaks that we had this year in the Quad Cities alone. Everybody, I think, can very well remember April 20th, where we had 14 tornadoes. And that was with a line of storms. That was not with rogue supercells that were out there floating on their own and having a lot of dynamics to work with. This was a line of severe thunderstorms with embedded tornadoes with it. Some of the worst conditions you can get for tornadoes in terms of a warning situation, because in that type of a setup, we had tornadoes just popping up left and right out of this line, and it was kind of a mess to look at on radar. So that was very, very busy. Those tornadoes, they occurred in the following locations. This was April 20th. You had Blandesville, that was an EF1. You had New Boston, an EF0. You had Swan Creek, that was Greenbush, Illinois, a little bit further out of the region. We had Windsor, Illinois at an EF0. The Victoria to Galva tornado, a little bit stronger at an EF1. We had the Altona and also the Bishop Hill EF1 tornado. And then we also had the EF0 near Kewanee. Remember all the tree damage that Kewanee got? It felt like it took months to clean up all those trees. Yeah, Kewaunee had a tornado. Atkinson had a tornado. Geneseo had a tornado. Actually, Geneseo had 2 tornadoes on April 20th. And then there was also a tornado in Cordova and another tornado in rural Whiteside County there, also getting into Henry County near Yorktown and Tampico. April 20th was a big, big tornado day here in the Quad Cities. Check out this other day, too, that we have on the list here. That was back on June 3rd, where we had 8 tornadoes. And just kind of briefly recapping those tornadoes there, multiple reports. And then that was another busy day that I remember quite well. You had Fort Madison. You had New Boston in that list. Monmouth, into Gerlaw tornado, Taylor Ridge and Milan tornado there. You also had one in Edgington, Reynolds, Coyne Center, and we had a tornado in Moline as well. Remember that morning, and that afternoon quite well. That evening, I should say. That was an evening event. Lastly, we had another active tornado day. That was July 11th with 11 total tornadoes. The damage that I'm showing you here in this specific picture was from that. This is the damage from Camping World, just outside of Davenport, between Davenport and Bluegrass, where you had several RVs and several trailers tipped over. You had a very heavy RV that was completely flipped over on its side. That was actually one of the first damage events I was actually able to get to using the News 8 drone and actually cut through a damage path. So very active on the tornado side if you're curious about the total numbers, and I'm going to post more about this later this afternoon on my social page. Iowa has only seen this year to date 36 tornadoes. Meanwhile, you go to the Illinois side, we're in the triple digits. Illinois has seen 141 tornadoes. Busy year for Illinois, and I have a feeling, we'll talk more about this coming up, of course, early next year, that this spring we will likely once again have another busy tornado season because it all has to do with La Nina. And past history shows as you get out of a La Nina pattern, whether it's strong, weak, or moderate, we're in a weak La Nina right now, as you come out of that in the spring, you typically tend to see the tornado numbers go up, especially in our neck of the woods here. So just early indications that, again, our upcoming spring could be quite bumpy here in the Quad Cities. Let's go to impact number 2. This I will never forget. We did live on the air coverage. I was here with Chief Meteorologist James Zahara. We were witnessing something truly heartbreaking live on the air with all of you that were watching. And that was the residents of these apartments in Davenport literally wading in the water, trying to get to either their belongings or trying to find some kind of storm drain to help relieve all of the water that had accumulated in this complex. Unbelievable video. It was heartbreaking to watch. And of course, all the follow-up stories we did with families that were impacted as well. That was a major flash flooding event where we had several inches of rain fall in less than an hour's time, overwhelming the storm drainage systems, overwhelming the creeks and the streams, causing scenes just like this to form in Davenport. And it wasn't just Davenport that had the flooding either. Moline also had some significant flash flooding along with a few other hometowns. So absolutely, this was an easy choice for number 2, especially once we saw the gut-wrenching images that we were watching live during our severe weather coverage. Number 3, of course, you can't get out of here without talking about a derecho, right? So number 3 is the July derecho. We had that July 29th, widespread winds of 80+ miles an hour, especially west of the Quad Cities. We had 60+ here in our immediate region, but if you went further to the west, Iowa City had 80+, Cedar Rapids was about the same, but Sioux City, Iowa, just to the east of where this derecho originated from, had several reports of 90+ miles per hour on those wind gusts. Now, thankfully, this derecho was in a weakening trend as it entered our region there in July 29th during that time frame. But yeah, definitely a very busy storm system. There's 2 more impacts that I'm going to post on social media to round out the top 5. Coming in at number 4, I've got it written down on my sheet here. Number 4 is absolutely going to be the heat wave that we had this past July. Again, it was the most humid summer on record in the Quad Cities that we've seen. Ever since we kept keeping records, and that goes all the way back to the late 1800s. So the heat wave, big impact that comes in at number 4. And then number 5, we had the snowiest pre-winter on record with that heavy snow, that back-to-back heavy snow that happened after Thanksgiving. I thought it was appropriate we mentioned that too because, yeah, we were really put through the winter ringer quite early this season once those winter storms moved through. So there's your top 5. Recapping: number 1, 3 tornado outbreaks in the Quad Cities this year. Number 2, we had the flash flooding, life-threatening flash flooding in Davenport. 3, the derecho of July. 4, the heat wave this past summer. And then number 5, the snowiest pre-winter on record. What a fun year of weather in the Quad Cities. Let me tell you, we have had little to no rest in the Weather Center at times this year. There's been a lot of tracking that's been going on. But you know what? That's what we do here. That's part of our passion. And that's what the passion you kind of embrace, if you will, when you become a meteorologist, and specifically when you're in such a public-facing role like we are here at WQAD News 8. So it has been our privilege to track all of that for you to help keep you safe, and you have our word and our promise that we will continue to do that and more heading into 2026, no matter what Mother Nature decides to throw our way. We will be here for you tracking that, especially what you're doing right now in the 8+ app. We get extended coverage on here. We don't have to worry about commercials. We don't have to worry about programming. We used a lot of this feature this year, and we're excited to use even more of it as we master this new technology heading into next year. Let's recap a couple of our Ask Andrew questions that we had this week, and then I want to open the floor to your questions that you've got for me this morning, weather related. So let's tackle what we had this morning. This was a great question that came in from, I believe it is, Ted. Am I right? Hey, my memory's working. Comanche, Iowa. What are the streaks of bright light in the night sky? So what is Ted talking about? He's talking about something we call light pillars. And here's a cool example of what those look like. They almost look like spotlights, like someone shining a spotlight up in the sky. But if you've ever seen a spotlight, most of us have, it's really wide. It's not really narrow and concentrated like the light that Ted is talking about. And if you look at the picture here, these are very narrow beams of light that are being shot up into the sky. No, we're not being invaded by aliens, and no, people are not shining lasers into the sky. What is happening is these are light pillars, and they're reflections of light from everything like street lights, even house lights. I've seen light pillars off of the I-74 bridge, those lights. I've also seen them off the Centennial Bridge too. How does this work? So you need one of two things. You need really cold air. I'm talking about temperatures near 0 or below 0, or you need some blowing and drifting snow. And some really good blowing and drifting snow, enough that it's picking it up into the air and lofting it quite high. Why do you need those? Well, for one, if you have really cold air, you have a suspension floating in that air mass of a lot of tiny ice crystals. It doesn't matter if the air is dry or if it's got humidity with it, it will always have ice crystals when we're talking about temperatures being really cold. Those ice crystals, or the blowing snow, those ice crystals, they form these hexagonal shapes. That's critical. You need this kind of a shape in order to focus the beam of light into a really skinny corridor like you're seeing here in the picture. So because of the shape of that ice reflecting off of the light, whether it's from the street light or your lamppost, that allows it to travel significant distances up into the atmosphere. And that creates these beautiful light pillars. They really are something to look at. I encourage you, if we get another really cold night, we have nothing in the near future, of course, but if we end up getting back to some nights where it's near 0 or below 0, take a look in the distance, especially if you live in the city. You're not going to see so much of this in the country, but if you live in the city, this is actually one of the rare times where it's to your advantage because you've got all this light pollution where these ice crystals can work with and shoot these beams of light up into the sky. It really is something really neat to look at. Our other question we had to do with the drought what the status of that was, if we're seeing any improvement, if it's getting worse. So I want to recap the rain that we had from this past weekend. And you can see many, many hometowns more than an inch of rain. Now, normally in December, this would not be a big deal because typically by now, the ground is frozen. This would have all run off and it would have gone right to the creeks, streams, and rivers, and it would have been to nobody's advantage. We did not freeze the ground completely because we had the snow in November that lasted throughout much of December, and it kept that blanket, that cover on the ground while that really cold air came in. So because our ground was not frozen, the majority of this was able to soak into the soil. Fantastic news. Loved to see that. So what did that do to the drought? Well, we won't know the true impact of Sunday's rain until about another week or two, because our drought tracker, the folks that update this through the government and a couple of other colleges that work on this, they are behind about a week or two. It takes a lot of hand analysis, a lot of calculations to figure this out. So we'll see an update to this graphic and likely some improvement in the next couple of weeks. But we've already noticed some improvement from the last time I looked at this, and that we're starting to decrease the amount of severe drought. Now that's limited up here to just west of Rockford, kind of in near Freeport and Stevenson County. We're starting to see now just dry conditions take over. We still have some moderate drought to get through, but again, this is not a terrible place to be. It's only a terrible place to be if we don't expect any rain this spring. And it's too early to talk about spring rainfall, of course, but right now, if we have a normal spring, this is easily fixable. We can really repair this. The other advantage this time of year is the sun is not that strong. We're not pulling water out of the ground really easily this time of year. So it takes longer for the drought to get worse this time of year. If it was the summer, if we were in the summer right now, this map would look much, much worse. You're pulling a lot more water out of the ground. We're not doing that this time of year because the sun is at its weakest point of the entire year. So that was really interesting to see that update on the drought tracker. Again, we'll continue tracking that as we go throughout the next couple of weeks. I still think we're going to see some improvement. Also, I'm going to zoom this out and talk about this really quick while I have this map up. Speaking of the tornado season, if you will, tornado season. We know tornadoes really have no definitive season, but the spring season, one of the factors not only is not just the La Nina, but what is the drought doing to the west of us? We need to see some improvement in drought conditions because you need the moisture to get severe weather going in the spring. So notice most of the western half of Iowa sitting good right now. They're drought free. And honestly, we don't have any severe drought to the west of us. This is all either dry pre-drought conditions or just moderate drought. There's not a bunch of dark oranges, reds, anything like that. Easily recoverable if we can get the right pattern in place. So if this remains the case going into the spring, where we don't see a ton of severe drought out here to the west, I fully expect we're going to have a very busy spring season when it comes to severe weather again this year. One of the many puzzle pieces we're putting together, something we'll continue to monitor as we get closer and closer to spring. I'm already thinking about spring. Many of you are probably also thinking about spring. We'll get there in due time, but we've got some more winter to get through first. Don't forget that. Just getting into January tomorrow. All right, that's all I have for you content-wise in terms of pre-planned stuff. So now it is your turn to get your weather-related questions in here. And we will start off with Billy, our good friend and dedicated weather weenie in Clinton, Iowa. Good morning, Billy. He says his question is, I've been hearing about a defamation snow ban from Mr. Warner this past weekend. What is it, and do these typically lead to snow squall warnings? Thank you for your time, and I hope everyone has a happy new year. Well, Billy, I hope you have a happy new year as well. A defamation snow ban. Great question. So when we talk about that, what it is it is a band of very heavy snow that typically forms along two things. One, a front, whether it be a cold front or a warm front, or two, it can form on either the east side or the north side of an area of low pressure. What they have in common, whether it's via the front or via the low pressure, is not only the intensity of the snow, but the narrow corridor of the snow. And typically, that corridor is moving over the same area. So for example, let me pull up a current radar. I probably don't have anything deformation-wise on the radar right now, but maybe there's an example that I can show you if we have something going on. Actually, we have some lake effect snow going on. Let's go there because this is kind of a little mini example, if you will. So right here, lake effect snow into the western part of New York State. Right there, near Concord, south of Buffalo, this is what we would kind of call like a deformation zone. Notice that it's moving over the same area, the heaviest part. It's constantly repeating and moving over the same area. Now, typically, we don't see this here in the Quad Cities, this type of deformation zone, because we're not near a large body of water. The Mississippi River is not large enough to produce this magnitude of snow. It does produce some snow, yes, but not like this, not like the lakes do. But if we were to see this in the Quad Cities, you would not see this repeated, what we call back building or redevelopment on the western side. This would be on its own a line and a band of snow that the whole thing would just continue to drift off to the east and it eventually would end. But it is a longer duration band that comes through. Hopefully that makes sense. We get some good deformation bands, especially when we get closer to the transition between winter and spring, when we can get some of those stronger storm systems in here. Should have a good example to show you then. But of course, the pattern right now just doesn't give me a good example to show it. Happy New Year to Michelle. I saw you sent me a couple of messages. I'll get back to you, I promise. I'm trying to catch up on all of those. We have also some dedicated viewers from Walnut. Chris and Kayla, can you help explain what convection is in terms of storm system setup and what part it plays in severe weather or not? Happy New Year, thank you. Happy New Year to you guys as well. So convection, all it is it is a fancy term for thunderstorms. And in order to get thunderstorms or convection, you need a few host of ingredients. You need some really warm, humid air right here at the ground. And then you also need some cool, dry air up in the upper level of the atmosphere. We call it convection because it deals with rising air. You've got warm air rising up into cooler air, hence the term convection. If you've ever heard of a convection microwave, or if you have a convection stovetop, it's essentially the same process involved in that. So all the ingredients, typical summer, springtime thunderstorms, just the warm air here at the surface, the cool, dry air aloft. You need even a front. A front doesn't hurt to help force up some of that moisture, some of that extra humidity here at the ground to form the clouds, and eventually you get your thunderstorms. But yeah, convection is just a fancy term for thunderstorms. That's the scientific term that we use in the meteorological community. Good question there. Tyler, good morning. When it comes to temperatures, how would it be explained to when it's going either up or down? If you're going up and down very steep hills. I remember that the major flooding hit Davenport. I had water in your basement for days. I'm sorry to hear that. That was, just watching that video, my stomach was churning when we were doing that live severe weather coverage. And I don't blame the people for going in the water either. We talked about that on TV. When you're in that situation, I think you want to do anything possible to help, even if it involves you, taking on a little bit of danger yourself to go out into the water and try to find some way of helping to clear that out. I think all of us can relate to being in that situation, at least in our minds sometimes anyway. But when it comes to temperatures and steep hills, if you were to go on just a random hill here in the Quad Cities, you're not going to see a huge difference. What you really need to look at, instead of just small features like hills, you need to kind of look at something a little bit bigger, like a valley. So for example, if you get away from the Mississippi River in the Quad Cities, if you go up in elevation, where the land is a little bit higher, you will notice the temperature there is always going to be slightly warmer than the temperature that's down there closer to the Mississippi River. Because if you look at a topography map, one of those cool 3D maps, you will notice as you get closer to any body of water, whether it's the river or a lake, you're going to see the elevation change. It's going to start going down. The ground, the land is going to start trending down toward that river. Anytime you get into a valley region, you're always going to have cooler air, especially in a river valley. We see this over and over again along the Mississippi River. We see it along the Rock River, where temperatures are a little bit cooler because of that valley, that lower elevation. Because what does cold air do? Because it's so heavy, it sinks. So you're always going to have the coolest temperatures where you have the lowest elevation. The only thing that does not apply to is if you're at the top of a mountain. Obviously, the higher in elevation you go on a mountain, the colder the temperatures are going to be because temperatures fall as you go up in altitude. Not so much when you're close to the ground here. We're talking hundreds of feet up into the atmosphere. That's where that rule gets a little shaky, and it's kind of the opposite. Great question, though. And we're all caught up, and we've hit 9:30 right on the button. It's amazing how we're able to do that every single time. I want to give a shout out not only to each and every one of you for being with me again this year, looking forward to the year ahead next year, but also everybody behind the scenes who helps make Ask Andrew Live possible. That is our behind the scenes guru. I mean, he does everything from our digital team to managing the live stream. Alec, shout out to you for always helping and assisting. Also, a big shout out to our sponsor, too, Veterans Choice Contracting. Thank you for sponsoring Ask Andrew Live this year. It's been a great partnership, and I have really appreciated your support in helping get this program off the ground and becoming the success it is. So, cheers. I'll grab my my A+ coffee mug here. We will cheers to a 2026. I hope everyone has a great New Year's Eve. Hopefully you don't have to work tomorrow. I know we're off here for GMQC, so we're going to be back on Friday. But do celebrate safely, responsibly, and I hope you have a great evening. I will see you right back here Friday morning, and of course we will have a brand new edition of Ask Andrew Live next Wednesday, the first 2026 edition. We'll see what other good tidbits and stuff we can get to tracking for you. But until then, cheers, and wish you a happy New Year's, Quad Cities. Take care.